Hey, as you go back to that game on Sunday, have you seen it yet? Have you reviewed it yet, or do you? Okay, all right. The one question that I keep getting asked is, did you consider going to a big lineup? Sam, Noah, and Amir, just to combat their size.
I think at the beginning of the game, it was one of those things. I felt like, it's like you pick your poison. Do you try to have, is it the rebounding game, or do you got to be able to score? We only scored 51 points, and so our best offensive lineup, unfortunately, is our smaller lineup. And so when we got behind and coming back, it's kind of you're just trying to pick your poison. And I felt like we got good shots. I just felt like we just couldn't knock them down. And that's kind of the decisions that have to be made. But I think our bigger lineup, which could have helped in the rebounding, we would have had a tough time scoring.
Do you see ever sort of going? Because I can't remember a time that you've ever really gone to that big lineup, but as you go forward, it seems like you'll have a plethora of bigs.
Yeah, you know what? It was someone had asked me at the press conference. They said, they were comparing our zone to Syracuse's zone, and I said, you know what? The foundation is the same, but we've had to manipulate it a little bit based on our personnel. And when we had to go small in certain situations and have shooting on the court based on how they're playing and their size, it just became difficult. And you go back in those games. I go back and forth. I don't have to watch the game again. I was kind of in my brain going back, and even the way that they ran, it was hard to have the big guys, getting back in that situation. But you just brought up a nightmare.
Yeah. And then
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Thanks, Percy. Thank you for all your throw darts at me now, everybody. On three.
But, and I didn't have a chance to ask you this that night, but after watching the game again, sort of these
Sure.
these things jump up. With Nas, he played. He had 10 points in the first half. Was a really strong player for you. In the second half, you only played less than 4 minutes.
Yeah, you know what? I think in those games, for me, I always go back to the seniors. They have gotten us to that point. You remember even at the beginning of the second half, we cut it to 5, and then we didn't get back, and it was it just kept coming. And you go back to, Jalen at the point. I mean, there's so many decisions that have to be made. But Nas had a great game. He showed a lot of confidence. But I went with the seniors. I went with the experience. They earned us. They got us there. And Nas had a great game. Jamal Bay played great through his period, but went with the upperclassmen and the experience.
Coach, so what lies ahead in terms of the transition from this season? And I get graduation, obviously, from play, from athletic perspective, and from the academic perspective with the seniors.
Yeah, all of them will graduate. I think one of them might be in the last quarter, but they're all doing well academically. They'll all graduate, and they set the standard, and now it's up for the younger guys to push that standard and keep pushing it up and moving us forward. I think the experience of being in that tournament was incredible. Kind of gave you the taste of what great steak tastes like. It's like that great steak. You're like, oh, that's pretty good. That's a little bit better than the other place I went to, and I like that steak. And we've just got to keep raising the bar in our program, and those guys did a heck of a job.
Kind of going off of that, I mean, what does it do for a program when you have younger guys? I mean, it took the seniors till they were seniors to get a taste of it, and now you have younger guys who experienced it so early in their career.
Well, it's great. It's great. The experience, Nas, Amir, Jalen, for the most part, that sophomore class, they've played in a lot of games and were part of the build too. And to be able to have now, the 3 juniors and having the young guys being a part of that, it's fun because you go back and you get to play against a team like Carolina, or you play against the Zags, which we have, or you play against these teams. You see the size difference. You could tell even with Carolina. And, people forget that you have Brian Penn Johnson, who was a top 100 player that didn't, played maybe a total of 3 minutes, been hurt, redshirted. You got Nate Roberts, the size, standard, understand it, and they were able to get a year under their belt without actually losing a year, which is huge for the sustainability of our program. And just really exciting moving forward. It's still going to be hard because you're going to be a lot of new guys and a lot of new positions. but I really believe that they're really talented. They got a taste of it, and we can really push them beyond their limits. And I think it's going to be a really good team.
You mentioned Jamal Bay. What's the biggest difference you see in him in these later games?
He went through it, like people, what Jamal doesn't understand is he went through adversity, and adversity for him was the first time in his life that he's never played in a role or didn't know if he was going to get in the game, and he just kept working hard. Our staff was working with him every day. He kept getting better, and he started playing in tough situations, going through adversity. He's grown. He doesn't even know how much he's grown. And so when you see him produce on the biggest stages, and it's been off and on, and you don't know when you're going to go in, you don't know, it's pretty impressive. And it shows a lot about his character, his work ethic, and the type of player he's going to be.
Do you think he slides into Matisse's role at the top of the zone, or do you think he'll sort of play him at the back?
It goes back to, there's so many different things. Is Jalen going to be here? Is he not going to be here? There's so many different possibilities. But time will tell on that. The good thing was both him and Nas played on the top and the bottom, and got a lot of experience there. So it will be good.
You mentioned it. What is your process with Jalen between now and the time that?
Well, it's spring break right now, so we haven't really been able to talk. But there's a process that goes. And my philosophy has always been I want what's best for the kids, as we move forward in this, we'll sit down, I'm sure, with the family and go through the process. It doesn't hurt if you put your name in. It just, there's an actual timetable. I think it's April 11th that you have to declare, and you have to go through this process. But when we get a bill, sit down with Jalen and go through the pros and cons, and we're there to give him the information and support him 100%.
Do you think that players should, in that process, should they go all in because it's such a difficult deal to even try to get drafted, or should they try to do the sort of the him and it?
I think well, I've always had the philosophy of really getting them the best information. You make your best decisions when you have your best information, number one. Number two is sometimes that information is not right. You get a guy like Isaiah Thomas who they said, you're never going to get drafted, and he goes and he does what? He goes then because he was just committed, both feet in, I'm going to show and prove everybody wrong, and he becomes one of the best players in the NBA and one of the greatest stories. And you just never know. I think you just have to be ready for that maturity-wise, to make that jump and do those types of things. And Jalen he's as good as any guard in the country. He was a big part of what we did this year, and our job is to get him in a position to make his dreams come true. And we'll sit down, give him the right information, help him get that, teach him how to make a decision with his family, and it'll be their decision.
You maybe lay out what's on your schedule just coming up over the next couple of months. You've got signing day coming up. I'm sure you've got to work on schedule. You've got when can you start working with the players again?
You have to take 7 days off at the end of the year, and there's a certain amount of days, but the plan is to get back after it April 15th, have their first day back. It was like when we first got the job, and the new group of guys, and just keep trying to raise the bar. You have your systems in place, and you're trying to make all your systems better and trying to raise the bar. You're going to have new coaches in the league. There's going to be more competition. New coaches, different coaches, and if you're not evolving, you're dying. And you got to keep getting better, try to be in the cutting edge, and just keep moving forward.
Say like that when you first get those guys back and you start working with them again, what do you work on?
Well, I think, right now a lot of the coaches, especially myself, you go back and it's like an information dump on the year. You go back to what was our weaknesses, what was our strengths, where do we need to get better at, and then individually, the game's it's not a difficult game. A lot of our guys, I thought, you looked in pressing situations, we didn't handle the ball well, and now you're losing David, who is your point guard. You got to work on ball handling. We were one of the worst assist to turnover ratio teams in the country, and we were still able to have a great year. That needs to improve. That's also personnel driven, but there's also a lot of areas where those guys can get better skill wise. And then we have our offensive system in, we have our defensive system in, And it's just going to be a lot of work, just like day one. It's going to be these younger guys. They've worked at it for a year, but now we're going on year two. This is where we have to improve. This is where we made a mistake. This is where we got to get better. And we started working on shooting in the middle of the year, and I think we were third in Pac-12 conference games in shooting. So we just got to go back, reflect, learn, and get better. Doesn't matter, get better.
You talked about having to manipulate the zone. How much does that help for next year? Just kind of like, what did you learn about the evolution of your zone this year?
Well, it's the evolution of it. It's just going back to based on personnel, and that's when I talked to you guys about how you have to game plan and you have to be able to make adjustments. Next year, I mean, we could be, you could hold hands sideline to sideline. That's a big difference when you're maybe a 6'3" guy at the back of the zone, and your center's 6'7", and you're going in there. It's David and Goliath. And there's different battles now. We're just going to have a lot of size. That was one of our weaknesses the year before. We played our veterans. We've got good size. We've got improved athleticism in a lot of different ways. But we're going to be new, and they're going to be in new roles, and that's going to be the challenge. And that's why we have to keep getting better in those areas. And that's what we'll do.
What's the challenge in not just having them fill different roles on the court, but also kind of stepping in to fill all the leadership roles that you're losing in those course of years?
That's going to be a big thing as we move forward too. And we've got to just keep growing. Nas is a guy that's really kid does everything right, works on his game academically. He does an incredible job. He's a great kid, and I'm sure he'll turn into a leader. Needs to be a little bit more vocal. And now with those other guys, Sammy's going to be a senior. Sammy's been a great job. These kids love Sammy. But there's a lot of work to be done, and that's who we'll tell who the great leaders are, and then build them and teach them how to become great leaders.
And it seemed like with David that he brought a lot of that sort of toward your team.
Yeah.
That guy who was talking. Does Nas need to talk more? You have to sort of bring him out of his personality.
We gotta get Nas to talk less. Nas is like me. He can just keep rambling. No, Nas is the guy. Like, if he doesn't know you, he's quiet, and you'll be like, oh, is he quiet? But you put him in this room, and you're all friends. He's laughing, fun, just got an incredible personality, and people respect him. There's guys that are natural leaders. It just comes with the territory. It's what they are. And then you have guys that are guys that you can teach to be leaders and have a great leadership ability. You just got to take them out of their shell and let them be guys that do that. But when you're a leader, you've got to do everything right. You can't say one thing and do something else. And Nas is that guy. Nas does everything right. From work ethic to being a great person to making a difference. And a lot of guys do. Jalen's like that. Hamir's done a great job. So that upperclassman piece, and Sammy, we'll have some options there.
And I'm sorry, and with that, how does sort of Quade sort of fit with all of that? I mean, obviously he's new, but
Yeah.
Can he sort of give you some of that?
Yeah, he is. And I'm going to tell you, Elijah Hardy, he has a great voice. I'm not going to give you the example, but he's got leadership ability, and Quade has got leadership ability. Those guys that's when you have guys that are natural leaders. It comes by what they are, and then you have guys that can turn into great leaders. I thought Jalen was a guy that just evolved like no other. His game, but his personality and his, feeling comfortable in his own skin, being vocal, and especially when he came in with 4 seniors, 4 guys that are a little, older than him. So he's another guy.
For Jalen being the point guard when David was out,
Yep.
Getting his voice, is that part of playing the point and just kind of being that full in general?
Yeah, no question about it. It's a big part of it. And it's also another way for him to grow. You try to find a way to get your best players on the court for long periods of time, and that's what we decided to do. And he led us in assists. He's a guy who went from scoring, and the year before he didn't, and it's a whole other area, and that will be one of the areas of if you decide to come back, that's an area where you can play and be better and improve your game.
Size is such a big thing when you start getting into the elite programs. And when I look at Brian and how long he is, and imagining him in that zone, it's really intriguing. What kind of expectations would be fair for Brian for next year?
Well, it's still the same. He still hasn't played. He hasn't played, and you had that experience. But he had some issues with his knee. He's got those stronger. He's become stronger. He understands what it takes to be successful at the college level. And then now it just goes back to the game experience. It goes back to are you nervous? Are you not nervous? How do you respond with crowds? And we know what he does. It's just going to be something different. It's going to be new. But we're really excited. We're really excited for our young guys. I can tell you that. And I'm sure they'll be sped up the first times we play. We're trying to do an international tour. So that will give them experience before the season goes, where you can play 3, 4, 5 games, get a lot of practices in, and see what you got before you have to go in and start that game.
Can you expand on the international tour comment?
No, but it's something that we're going to do.
McCready?
Huh?
McCready involved in that?
No. Well,
With Nas, we saw flashes of everything.
Yeah.
On the court this year. What, for you, between now and the time next year gets here, what does he need to do so that becomes more consistent, especially with him going into probably a more problem?
I think a big thing is really doing a lot of tape study. Nas is the guy. You got to get in the film room. You got to watch it. He's an incredible talent. It was finding ways of where he and when he could attack out of our offense. Because you got to do it within a system. It's just not, okay, here's the ball, just go do that thing you do. That thing, just do that thing. It has to be within a system. And when you have young, talented players, it's that in high school, it could be like, okay, I'm going to put my head down and just go make a play. Now it's, how do you do it within the system? And that's where he got, I thought, better and better. Will Conroy did a great job with him as the evolution of the season, teaching him and understanding. And Nas is really emotional and understanding those emotions. And there was games where he was an amazing offensive rebounder. There was games that he wasn't. How do you put this whole package together? And it's just exciting when you have a guy who's got so much incredible talent, and he's got such incredible work ethic, and he's got such an incredible personality that the sky's the limit. And now it goes back to our job, putting that all in place.
And it seems a little odd to you even ask, but can Nas and Jalen play together for long minutes? Because they do like the same things, and so.
Well, they do and they don't. Jalen is really good with the ball. Nas is, Jalen's a hard left guy, spins in the middle. His mid-range pull-up is as good as anybody I've ever seen. Nas is, they're both attack-minded, I think. They're just skill levels are different. But, yeah, definitely. Are you kidding me? Those guys... Alpha, alpha, alpha. I love that. Like it's but it's when that mindset is in attack and they're confident and they're not afraid of anything and they want to play the best and be the best, and that's what makes them different. And no, they can definitely play together.
Couple more, guys.
Do you see yourself maybe selling Jalen on any points of that? Like, hey, look, if you come back, with you and Nas, you can do this, or we'll play you more at the point guard so you get more of those skills down, or do you kind of see that part of it, or do you?
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm just going to lay, here's the game plan on the table. And I've thought about it. I haven't really studied it. And when we just sit down, it goes back to, I haven't looked at is it a weak draft? Is it a good draft? What's next year's draft? What's that go back to? It's our job to give him the best information possible so he can make the best decision for him and his family possible. And we'll go from there. But there's a lot of bonuses to staying in school. I mean, he could be in a situation where he could possibly graduate in 3 years and then decide to take that step. That's an important piece. The great thing about at University of Washington is once you have that scholarship, he can come back. He can go and come back. That scholarship's forever, because education is obviously a huge piece for his family and for us. So it's just going to be where we sit down, study it, get it, sit down, have him make a decision with his family. But even if he puts his name in, it gives him options. There's no, if he wants to go and find out what they say about him and learn a little bit more, because I know he wants to learn. He wants to know what he has to do to get better. I'm 100% supportive of what he thinks and his family thinks best for him.